Hello there guys and welcome to the channel. This is going to be a review of The Inquisitor. This game was developed by a small Polish studio and is based on the novels of a Polish author, which haven't been translated into English, so they're not as well known as the Witcher series, for example. The price for the game seems to be around 40 US on Steam, which I believe is a little steep considering the quality of the product. I'm just gonna say it straight away. There are certain issues that are quite game breaking. You may be lucky enough to be playing on hardware and on a system that is compatible with the game so that it does not crash, so that it performs more or less smoothly. However, I have heard people with RTX 4090 barely getting a smooth 60 FPS on a 2K resolution, which definitely raises serious concerns about the optimization of this game. Usually I would mention the story of the game, the setting, and so forth, but the performance aspect of this game is the first thing that you should consider. And if you do decide to get the game, you should definitely make a decision whether you want to keep it or not within the first 2 hours. Even if you've updated all your drivers and you've updated your Windows to the latest possible version and everything, every other single game runs perfectly, this one may not. There seems to be no clear fix for it either. At this moment, we're kind of waiting on the developers to patch this to be compatible with all systems. Basically what happens is this game does not have a manual save option. It is checkpoint based, and the thing is that it frequently crashes during cutscenes, which happen at the end of quite tedious encounters where you sort of piece together the puzzle by collecting shards in this alternate universe. So the game takes place in a town called Königstein. The town itself is quite big, but to be honest, there's not that much to do there. The game, whilst it gives you options on how to behave, there do not appear to be any consequences with choosing either options. It is a linear experience with an illusion of choice, unfortunately. However, that doesn't mean that it's a completely terrible game. In fact, the game has quite an entertaining story. It's got quite a well-written story thanks to the novel that it was based on, and it has some great voice acting for some characters, not for all. Textures, the character models, even the main character models, they look quite poor. Probably I would say that the graphical aspect, the visual effects are actually not that bad, and the architecture of the city, it's done quite nicely, even though the graphics are outdated and they would be more something that you see on Xbox 360 or a game 10 years ago. Still, it's picturesque at times. It's got some nice vistas for you to look around and explore, and there's quite a handful of puzzles in this game, which are also actually not that bad. They're quite clever. I like the puzzles. Now, the story is kind of a slow burn. You're an Inquisitor in this medieval time frame, and you're sent by the church to investigate murders which apparently have been committed by a vampire. Now, you're chasing this vampire, but you don't see the vampire until the very end of the game. As you uncover the truth, mostly the action scenes of the game are done through Q2Es. You have the fight sequences, but they're quite primitive. The fight system itself, I would say it's not bad. It is definitely far from the worst fight system that I have seen, but it is quite basic. So it's not executed that bad. In fact, there's some parrying that you can do. There's dodging. For the investigation purposes, there's scenes where you have to collect clues. You have like sort of a X-ray vision to identify where you need to go and objects of interest. And there are eavesdropping sections. They're performed pretty decently. The thing that really holds the game back is the fact that it holds your hand. It really holds your hand. You have, like, for example, the fight controls are always listed on the left-hand side every time there's a fight sequence. Now you have waypoints basically telling you exactly where the suspect went. It takes away from the challenge of the game. The fights, they're also not actually that difficult, except I would say for the mini boss fights, or the boss fights, they're actually pretty good. I wish that they ramped up the challenge here by removing these tips, these constant hints, which are typically displayed during tutorial sections. The main issues with the Inquisitor is not its failure to capture choice and consequence, actually, because it works fine as a linear, story-based adventure. It's fine. The things holding it back right now is the performance optimization aspect with constant crashes. You will see if the game runs runs fine or not within the first 1-2 hours. The second thing, the graphics are quite outdated. Now, this is most noticeable in the character models, and sometimes there's not even a facial animation for the character. In some sequences, they don't actually move their mouth. You only hear words come out. Other than that, this game explores a sort of alternate Christian reality of what would have happened if Christ, instead of dying on the cross, would just, take up a sword and get off the cross and become the emperor of the Roman Empire, which may upset some people, but they're just kind of running with it. They're not trying to insult anyone here. This is a work of fiction, don't forget that. And the other thing I would like to mention is that very frequently you have these sections, they take place in the unworld. They can get quite long towards the end. Now, if your game doesn't crash, it won't be as bad. If it does crash, then it will be quite painful because these sections are long and quite tedious, and replaying them over and over again, hoping that the game doesn't crash at the cutscene at the end of the section. Because remember, there are no manual saves. You're gonna have to do it over and over until you can get through to the next checkpoint. Yeah, that's definitely a low point. It's a low point of the game. I wish they found a better way to do it, and even just collecting clues would have been fine without this otherworld section. Although the atmosphere of this unworld universe is quite well executed, just that the gameplay is way too repetitive. Anyhow, it doesn't take away that much from the main story, from the investigation premise, but I feel like it's artificially extending the playtime of the game, you know what I mean? Like, it feels a bit like filler content at times. I would recommend getting this game on discount. It is sort of a soft recommend once the developers have patched the game, and it runs way better than it currently does. So those are my thoughts, guys, and thank you for watching. I'll see you later.